Pocket, and this is Lasting Conversations. Kristi Price is with us this afternoon in the studio. Hi, Kristi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. She is the director and president, CEO, founder of KP Matchmaking. She is a beautiful matchmaker and a dating service provider here in Florida and in Pennsylvania. Her mission and goals, one of them is to help people create healthy, lasting, loving, committed relationships. Mm-hmm. So tell us more about that, because as we know, something about the dating scene and relationships can really cover a lot of ground. And where is it that you find that you set yourself apart? Because there are apps, and then there are other dating services, and there's the bar scene and all these different scenes. And then there's Netflix for weekend after weekend by yourself. Right. So how do you help connect people in the best possible way?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part is to love yourself first and create a life that you love, so you attract the right kind of people. Right. So that's important, whether I'm doing coaching or the matchmaking piece, that, you know, you're whole, you're over your ex, and you're ready to move on. You're not trying to fill a void. That's where you get into trouble and get into the toxic relations, as we talked about. So I help people with the coaching piece, kind of creating a life they love, if it's after divorce or just maybe they've gone through a breakup, by doing things that are joyful for them, being grateful for what they have, and then going online. Some people, you know, do have success with online, but you have to create your profile, right? Set your boundaries, see the red flags when you're online dating, and then going out in public and just meeting people at a Starbucks or places like that, or a meetup group, or, you know, a similar interest is also really important, because bars are not the best place to meet people. You know, it happens, but I don't recommend it. You don't, at least you know that you have a similar interest with somebody if you're going to an event. And then the matchmaking piece is when people are just like, I don't have the time to go out there and meet people, or I'm just not meeting the right people. They hire me to find people that are mutually aligned with their life and relationship goals and interests and hobbies, and they make those introductions for them.
Well, that is a mouthful. And I love everything that you're just saying, and just tapping back on the self first. Now, I'll just go ahead and say I'm 10 years post-divorce. And from 14 until almost 50, I was with my high school sweetheart and then my husband of 26, almost 27 years. So that was my entire life. And so these last 10 years, I have been looking at me and looking at my life and finishing my motherhood, my parenthood time, and really reestablishing who I am for my next juncture, rather than jumping in to fill that void, if you will, to the next guy, nor closing myself off and saying I'm, you know, the He-Man haters club.
Oh, right.
Right. Because I know there's a lot of women that they just say that's enough, and I'm not going to do that either. So to find that balance of self first, and then to be ready to be open to that next door. Within a lot of the stuff that you're just saying, what is it? I think people can be so fearful about relationship. Maybe they want to date or they have hookups, but that's not the same as a real relationship. And how are you finding that kind of committed relationship, that people are actually finding each other to do that? And I'm going to say we're in Florida. I don't want to perhaps make a stereotype, but in some ways there is a stereotype of it's seasonal. People are here, they're gone, they're not necessarily committed to the one location. Maybe that helps. I don't know. And how is it that people can land well together?
Surprisingly enough, I think there are, like you said, in Florida, it's a little different market than Philadelphia.
Okay.
So there are a lot of age gaps, for lack of better words.
Right, that's one of it.
Some of these men need validation, and the women are looking for a paycheck. They'll just be straight. Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm going to stop, because let's get into some of the stereotypes. So they're not really stereotypes. You mentioned meetup. There was a whole meetup group for women to say how to find your gold, right?
Yes.
So they're looking for that paycheck to be arm candy.
Right.
And then you're hearing, oh, well, the guys just want nurses and purses. So there's the flip side.
That's true.
You know, they want their mommy or they want their whore. You know, they want both, or either or neither.
Exactly.
So again, how do we wade through these realities and or misconceptions?
Well, I think going back to healthy relationships, number one, you have to find someone that's healthy, because those relationships, I mean, they're transactional for the most part, and they work for those people who need validation or need, a paycheck or whatever. But there are people down here, men and women, that are really, they're whole, they're healthy, and they want someone that's age appropriate, that's aligned with what they're looking for and their value systems and life and relationship goals. Those are the people you want to meet. So if you're searching for someone to support you or someone to make validation, it's not going to end well. It's just not, for the most part.
It might feel pretty good in the beginning.
Exactly.
And then it plays through.
For sure.
Plays through. So how long have you been doing this? And what drew you to matchmaking?
I've been doing it for 15 years. And I got divorced and didn't take the time to heal. And I had a great husband for many reasons. It just didn't work out. And so, but I went out there looking for like the fun guy, the really charismatic guy. And it just, I made a lot of mistakes. So I stopped and started looking inward at myself and feeling, what am I attracting? Which is, very much, this word's thrown around a lot, but narcissistic, types of men that are super fun and love bomb you in the beginning. And I just stepped away and really did work on seeing those red flags, working on myself, getting happy with myself, because my identity was always my jobs. And I think men more so. But I was like, oh, I'm a financial advisor, I'm this and that, instead of just looking inward and just loving me for who I am.
Right. And
then I did a lot of research on learning how to date online and see the red flags, as I mentioned. And I started helping my friends, go out there and meet people, and they're having a lot of success. So I decided that I didn't even know dating coaching was like a real job. And I remember talking to some friends. They said, that sounds like an amazing thing to do. So I did this to help people not make the same mistakes I did with dating the wrong man after my divorce, and just helping them find love.
That's beautiful. Now, what about the guys? Because it can't be easy for them either. From a women's perspective, and I'm friends with a lot of women, you sort of have this stereotype of, the guys are kind of doofus and they only want one thing. But really, they have the flip side also. And it can't be simple for the guys who are looking for that healthy, committed relationship. First of all, where are they? Hello. And second of all, from your vantage point, how are they doing in this age?
It's tough. I actually have a lot more men than women I work with.
Okay.
That are looking for relationships and are having trouble meeting quality women that are aligned with what they're looking for. So it's not just women that are struggling out there. There are a lot of men out there as well that are struggling to find really good relationships.
And what would be some pearls of wisdom and nuggets when you do either events, you do social events, you do the one-on-ones? Kind of walk us through some of these different scenarios.
So I do events down here. In fact, I have one next Thursday, and that helps people connect. So if they're not sure about coaching or matchmaking with me, or even if they're a client, they'll come to these events. We do like mixers, speed dating events, things like that, to help people connect and meet people out in the regular world that don't want to online date or are not having success with online dating.
So I'm kind of my mind's going a few different directions. One is I've never really dated in my life. So that very word, if you see me twitch every once in a while, that's just my truth, because I'm team organic. And what I'm giggling about is, say, my daughter or the 20-somethings who are used to the online, and that the dating world itself is different. And even where, we don't go out to dinner, or we don't go bowling, or we don't go on a picnic, because that is actually perceived as maybe too intimate first. Like, you have coffee or you have a drink. And so they're younger people that apparently are shifting what dating even is, which is perhaps different than my come from, which is I'd rather be at meetup, or rather be meeting somebody, doing something that I enjoy, so there's an activity built in.
Yeah.
So how are you finding, and in the course of your 15 years of your career, have there been changes like that?
Yeah.
So that the younger kids want to save an activity for after, they kind of go, yes, no, after a coffee or drinks once or twice or three times.
Yeah. Well, a lot of my clients actually love to do activities.
Yeah.
So
that's what I figured. That's why we connect. You and I we've met a few times. We just connect because it's on that deeper level.
Yeah.
You want to do something.
They'll go for a walk and coffee or go for a bike ride or things like that. Because I think it's nice to have an activity. So all that pressure of staring at each other, like across, at a bar or coffee, is kind of lightened up. Plus you're connecting in a physical way.
Right.
Just walking or bike riding or going bowling, and it's fun.
Right. And you're interacting with the rest of the world, which to me, you're really seeing how someone is in the world.
Right.
How do they treat their waitress, or what is it that they're like if they lose at pickleball, right? These are some of the tags that you can actually say, okay, this is cool, or maybe not.
For sure.
Maybe not. Mm-hmm. So, again, for team organic and meeting people, and I like the notion of being social and having the different parties and things like that. Is there something that, I know where I'm going, perfection, social media, the selfies, the Botox, all of the visuals that now we can be so used to. Where is that aligning or not aligning? And is that a different part of the world? I'm not even say the Botox world, but the stuff where I can see that there's a difference between what might be a real person, warts and all, physically, versus this strive to be, you have to be perfect and a six pack and a this and the boob lift. How are you finding this with your clients?
Well, it's very prevalent with online dating.
Mm-hmm.
If they're trying to do online dating, all the filters, the body filters, the facial filters, it's like we're in a world that isn't real anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that you go meet the person, and they don't look like their photo. So right off the bat, you're being not truthful about who you are. And my clients are like, well, the first thing you see is someone's height or what they look like.
An age range or all of that. Yeah.
Right. So I think this whole world with the selfies are a little bit narcissistic. I can't stand them all day long. So that's a little bit of a red flag if you're, see somebody. But it's just become this, especially since COVID, this whole self-gratification, Facebook, like all this, this stuff to try to get attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how about conversation, or people are, from your clients, where is it, or where do you like to go? And maybe this gets more into the coaching part and that self-actualization or even conscious. What is it that really is that creation from within self that then you engage with somebody? That your clients can then learn. Maybe they haven't known how to do that. Maybe their parents hadn't modeled, or they hadn't come from a relationship where you're actually conversing back and forth with somebody.
Yeah. And I see that really prevalently with the younger generation. So I help them with conversation tips and things like that. And active listening, let someone finish their sentence. Don't turn the conversation right back on you. And so for example, if you said you just went to Spain, what did you love about Spain? Ask a few questions. Well, this is what I loved. I was there too. So you have to build that rapport. Ask about interests, hobbies, things like that. Don't talk about exes.
Right. Yeah, don't talk about exes. Unless and until it becomes part of that healthy, this is part of my life. This is my history. You're not trying to hide history, which is different than, everybody sucks, or he did me wrong, or she's a bitch, or whatever it is. So there's that balance as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a really great question, but go ahead. And I know it has to do, let's go with age. So there is either a truth or a perception about guys want the youngest possible. My own stepdad said that she's as young as I could get, and are you finding that's actually true? And then on the flip side, I'm sure there's women that, we get this thing called cougar, which doesn't seem fair, but let's just talk about age disparities. Where are you finding people are resonating on what that even looks like?
I think most of my clients want to kind of be in the age range. So like 10 years up, 5 or 10 years down, depending if it's a man or a woman. But then also some people look really youthful for their age. So I say be open to the age. It's really about the person and the connection that you have with someone.
Right.
But that is a thing that, and why we were labeled cougars, right? Or men sleep around and it's fine. And then we're called sluts if we do.
It's crazy.
It's such a double standard.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But I think that if you want to have similar life experiences to have a long lasting relationship, and if someone's 30 years apart, I mean, sometimes it works and no judgment, but many times it doesn't, not long term.
Well, that gets back into that healthy thing. And there's a different topic I have to say off microphone with you later. So I think where are some areas that perhaps I'm not covering that might be a great tool for our listeners?
I think just stay positive. I see so many people just get so discouraged, especially with online dating. And it really is a numbers game until you find the one. So you have to get out there. You have to create opportunities. If you're sitting at home and just, behind your computer, which a lot of people work remotely, you're not going to meet people.
Right.
So I really push my clients, especially my coaching clients, because my matchmaking clients, I'm doing it for them, to get out, go to meetup groups, go to professional events, just get out and meet people. And even on the street, put your phone down and be present.
I think that's the biggest thing of all. The phones are great, but to be present and to look up and engage with somebody and not to be afraid of engaging with somebody who's at the grocery store or whatever. And is there something else where we mentioned about Pennsylvania versus Florida. What do you have for us Floridians or other areas that are kind of vacation spots or these transient feeling kind of places, perhaps?
That's a great question. So with Florida, I think it's just getting out there. There's so many activities and you can meet people at events. I mean, there are events all the time. I mean, it's slowing down now, but there are definitely events every weekend and things to do and just being open. So Florida is such a great place if you just make eye contact with somebody and smile just to meet friends. So I moved down here to expand my business 2 years ago. And within 2 weeks, I met my best friend and a lot of people. So it's about being present, engaging with others, and not being fearful of rejection. So, I mean, if someone rejects you, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. You're just not their style. So you have to get out of your comfort zone and get out there and talk to people and meet people.
Thank you. That's a beautiful thing too. And maybe circling back to, I will say it feels like women are more afraid, and that could be part of a societal thing. We're afraid of our age. And some people state statistics to say, well, if you're this age, then you only have these 10 guys available somewhere in the haystack. And so the self-confidence can feel a little taxing sometimes, or there's a nervous factor to, again, make that match or to say to yourself, no, there is somebody out there for you. But so again, what would you say to an older population that is perhaps gun shy?
That's a great question, especially down here, because I see it a lot. People are like, oh, you should just stay with somebody because they're a good person and maybe you're, not in love with them, but it's hard to find men down here it's all about your energy. So if you have bad energy and you're worried and you're feeling bad about yourself, you're not going to attract the right one. And I believe there's someone for everyone. Is it true that there are more men here than women and women than men?
Yeah,
in
women
Florida?
and men.
Yes. But there's always the key person. And if you're not keeping your elevation up and your frequency up and you're positive, you're not going to meet them.
I think that's very true. So from your perspective, what does that mean? For perhaps somebody might not know, what does she mean by frequency? What does she mean by vibration? What does she mean by any of this?
So energy, like positive energy attracts positive energy and keeping your elevation up. So if you walk into a room and you're like hunched over and you're looking down, first of all, you're not going to meet anyone. So people are attracted to people that are smiling and have good energy. That's just a fact. And that's across, the universe or the world.
The stuff that radiates from us.
Yes.
Right. Some people radiate anger, or they radiate fear, or they radiate maybe a combination.
Right.
Or they radiate joy and effervescence.
Right. Yeah. And that attracts people. People want to be around happy people.
Right. That's very good. And do you have any narcissistic red flags as some helpful tips to stay away from or to be mindful of?
Yeah. The one thing is love bombing. If someone's coming on to you too strong and talking about the future and, oh my gosh, we're so perfect for each other too soon, it's an immediate red flag. If they don't know you yet, that's huge.
I'm seeing the big, just giant, big red flag.
Yeah. And that's why I got into this, because they're so charming. They're amazing people at first.
I'll take care of you. No one else will possibly love you more. And I've seen that flame out way too many times with people. Yeah.
And also if they're rude to service staff and things like that.
Totally.
It'll come back to you down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, it'd be nice if you have a decent mother relationship, or at least understand your family dynamic.
Exactly.
Right? Life doesn't have to be perfect because our families are their own weirdness, but to be okay with it and to be honest and valid and valued. So this gets back into what is healthy and who perhaps has done their work.
Right.
Right.
They have to do the work. And also everyone has disconnections with certain family members, but if they don't have like a good network of friends and they're disconnected with their whole family, you have to really look at that and why.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and then this is probably a topic for an entire show, really, in terms of what is some of the verbiage, what are some of the red flags, or we could get into victim consciousness and codependency and all of these different things that I'm sure you cover with your clients. And those topics are vast.
They are.
Right? They are vast, but this is why it's important for each of us to do our own work first and then step out and have our discerners better. A friend of mine says, my picker was broken. Like she picked once, twice, 3 times and it bit her in the ass. But at least now someone who says, oh, my picker was broken, right? Or maybe my discerner was off kilter a little bit to discern. So I think there is the fun part on the show. We always circle back to the joy and the fun part. The whole thing can be fun, where it's not quite so terrifying. But I think people are in an interesting time right now. There's a lot going on politically. We've just had COVID, but there's still waves of that. This trust, mistrust, that's what we can really touch on real quick, perhaps, is this sense of not only who am I in this world that is changing. We have political differences. We have healthcare differences. We've had a whole long time of not knowing really who to trust and where to go.
Right.
But again, in certain areas, it's been more physically open. We can step outside, and in other areas, you have winter or you have to close off some. But let's just talk 1 second more about that whole trust, mistrust, which obviously goes back to ourselves, between us and us. But within this construct of dating and being in the world with other people, how are you finding that? Are people navigating the differences that are happening right now in the world?
Definitely they are. In fact, I talked to a girl today that's in LA, and she said, they're locked down for so much, and now there's so much judgment over viewpoints, which never was the case before. If you were a Republican, if you were a Democrat, people could actually survive together, or if you're a vaxxer, or I'm not even going to say the word.
Right.
If you
it's
don't
just
get
yes or no, or
that's
this or this, belief systems. We'll get into belief systems and different practices. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's created such angst and divided us so much. And that's been a problem for dating, because people are so divided. And they are like, they won't trust someone because they voted for Biden or they voted for Trump or whatever.
Right.
So it's really difficult to really meet people that are aligned with so many things, in addition to what you're talking about, what's gone on in the world, especially the last 2-3 years with COVID, and just, it's been a crazy world. It's been very radical. And I think has people, everyone a little bit on edge.
Well, actually, you were kind of touching at your chest. Is there a certain guardedness? People are feeling a little guarded of their heart or of their physical body.
Yeah.
So that's a different thing too, as to how to open up, perhaps.
Yeah, because COVID did that. So I think, especially where the locations where you were, you're masked up. You're not talking to everyone. You're scared you're going to get COVID and you're going to die.
There's people running scared all around anyway. Right. Right. And now if there's financial fear, or it all comes back to if there's fear or recognizing, oh, this is where I'm afraid, but I don't have to be. It could be something irrational.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with all my clients, and I do this too, because we all have days that, bad days or a little fearfulness. We're both aligned with this.
Because we are human.
Grateful.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. And just being grateful for what you have now and being present. And, we create our own worry and stress, and it's usually not really valid. So just taking a break, believing in yourself, that they're good people out there. I mean, they're bad people too, but just be smart about it and set your boundaries and see the red flags. And I think that I went through this one before I got into this about being vulnerable. And I used to think that it was a place that was of like not strength. And I went to a walk on fire, and this whole thing when I was going through,
a walking on red coals.
Yep, I did the whole thing.
Yep.
And they said, "So what do you want to release?" I said, "Well, being vulnerable, because it's weak." And he said, "No, being vulnerable is a place of strength that you'll survive whatever it is that comes down the pike that may hurt you. You have to be open. And if you're closed off to friends, family, or love, it's never going to happen."
That's a beautiful thing. And I remember actually in the height of my own heartbreak that there was a mentor at the time that said, you have to be able to let your heart be broken again and again and again. And at that moment, I was like, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. So, but that gets into that guarding. If we're not vulnerable enough to, to really go there.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And, but I think to circle back with, basically people are great. They just are. But yeah, there are some jerks in the world too, and how to kind of suss out the who's who. And I'm sure that even within your own clientele, you don't just take anybody.
No.
Do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. So every client that I work with, I do an initial consultation for, and I make sure that I'm aligned with who they are, number one, because if I don't get my clients, I can't help them. Or if they won't do the work, I can't help them. So I do a background check too, especially here in Florida. So to make sure that they're good people and they don't have criminal backgrounds, and then just go through a whole interview process, learning about their value systems, what they're looking for in a partner. I work with people that want monogamous relationships. So that's important too. If they're looking for other things, that's fine. I don't judge people, but that's not what I work on. So, right. And then, so it's just about getting to know who they are, what makes them tick. Are they over their ex yet? Or are they still talking about them all the time in a bad way? And see if they're ready for a relationship.
That's beautiful. And I think now I'm remembering there was something that when you were talking a couple minutes ago, the list, right? The checklist. Do you find that some people, and maybe it's women mostly, because we just hear about that a lot, that the list is so long that you're really cutting yourself off?
Yes. I had a woman come to me with like 30 things on her list. I'm like, your top 3 or 5. You can't have everything in one person. That's why we have friendships and we have other relationships. So if you're looking for everything in one person, it's not going to happen usually. So you want to, the top 3 to 5 things are really important. And then the other stuff you have to filter out a little bit and see what they like. So I like active, positive minded singles. That's who I work with. So most of the people that come to me, they want that, good values, honest. I mean, that's just across the board. And so things, good communication, all those kind of things.
Right. That's just, I love it. I think that there's room for everybody who wants to have someone in their life. There's room for that. And of course, I look forward to that myself, and without any weirdos. So that's top of my list. No weirdos. So Kristi Price, thank you. So where can we find you?
What
are some of the fun things that are happening? You've got different events, and you've got the 2 different states, Pennsylvania and Florida.
Yes. So we have a lot going on. We have an event coming up on the 4th in Florida at Stressa Restaurant. It's going to be a little speed dating event. And then we have an event in Philadelphia, a social dance thing we're doing, which will be fun on the 3rd.
I love that. I used to love ballroom dancing. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I think more studios are opening, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah. And then I'm actually doing a biohacking play date at the biohacking conference in Orlando on June 22nd, I think, at 6:00.
Oh, wow. What's that going to do? How does that look?
It looks amazing. It'll be about 200 people that go to the biohacking conference that are single. And we're doing like a little not speed dating, but we're doing an icebreaker. We're going to give questions so people kind of move around their groups. So it'll be really fun. So everyone will be able to connect.
That's very cool. Kristi Price, thank you so, so much for being here.
Yeah. And then if people want to get a hold of me,
it's
kpmatchmaking.com. And if they want to do a free consultation on there, just for a phone call to ask about services or a little bit of advice, they can book it right on my website.
And do you have Facebook and social?
Yes. It's at Matchmaker Kristi D Price for Instagram, and KP Matchmaking for, Facebook.
Cool. Kristi, thanks so much. Happy springtime. Happy summertime. It's going to be a beautiful season.
This is fun, Heather. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. Please be sure to like, follow, review, and share this podcast. And if you'd like to be part of the conversation, send emails to podcast@lastingconversations.com and follow us on Facebook. This is Lasting Conversations. We get to the heart of everything.